Here it is. Plant genotype test, which included a placement on the galaxy, which I'm going to have to read back and see what the hell they mean by galaxy, as well as a full report on its relationship to other cultivars. Because the galaxy is public, it allows any breeder, scientist, or curious pod consumer to see how their favorite cultivar fits into the big picture. Basically, it's like ancestry.com for weed, is what these people were starting. And again, this is very similar, but I don't know if it's exactly the right thing. So don't use anyone's names for any sour intentions. And it also helps growers decide what to breed next. Okay, this might be the right thing. The farther apart two plants are genetically, the more likely they are to yield a plant with higher vigor and more disease resistance. So for anyone who is breeding, that might be a PowerPoint to pay attention to. But how would you know that unless you just, yeah, how would you know that unless you really know your stuff without getting this genotype test? So genotyping also offers a quick fact check, allowing growers to know if they're mislabeling cultivars. That would be huge because we're always talking about replicas. That's a huge thing right now with replicas that aren't exactly what they were. Like today's green crack is different than the 90s green crack or the OG green crack. Um, so it would be interesting to put a name to it if you could do that. Um, I can't imagine it would be like an easy testing process to do all of that to know exactly what you have, but that would be an incredible superpower. Which, due to the holy shit, clandestine nature of the black market, happens with some regularly. For the beginning, Phylos petitioned itself as a new kind of agriculture company, one that mistrusted. I'm trying to see your chat. Give me a second. This seems like a new form of pollen chucking, seeded slinging, and copying genetics. Also, lion roars for the hairdo. Hey man, thank you. I appreciate the shout out for my hair. Um, so I think this might be a little bit different than just any old pollen chucking or uh, flip like the that copycat genetics. That guy, he came out in an interview that I saw recently where he was talking about how he will get popular seeds or seeds he wants to breed F1s and just throws them out there. And he talks about how he like flips a profit better than other people do because he doesn't actually go through a breeding process. He just breeds, sells the seeds. That's a little bit different from what I'm understanding. This being because they're claiming that they just want to make premium weed, and that's not something you can do quickly by any means. But if they are able to test the lineage of things, like if that's legit, then they can make something crazy. Um, where were we here? So mistrusted Monsanto and champions small scale growers and or small scale growers and breeders. The people responsible for the vast genetic diversity in the cannabis category. At last count, the Phylos galaxy had 3,000 samples. So I guess the Phylos galaxy is like the family of marijuanas. Yeah, that's fair indeed. I could be wrong. Also, to be fair, I did just skim through this. I didn't want to like get super detailed into it. I wanted to have at least some organic reaction when I read this with you guys, but this seems like it's the right article that I'm talking about. And either way, this is super interesting. So the Phylos Galaxy had 3,000 samples from 80 different countries, making it the largest database of cannabis genetics in the world. So that's actually just the Phylos Galaxy, I guess, is the company or entity that took in all of these samples. So when Holmes announced April 16th via Instagram that Phylos would be launching its own breeding program in a facility west of Portland, here it is. It wasn't all hearts and smiley faces. Many in the cannabis community were outraged. So if you guys want to read along with this, pull up another browser, go on Google and minimize this. They mentioned diploids or triploids. Not so far that I'm seeing here. This might be before we were talking about that in this space, the triploids. But it's on what weird.com, and it's a high drama article. A quote, "How about staying in your lane?" said an early response. Damn, maybe you really have been stealing genetics this entire time, began another. And finally, every idiot that allowed your company to put their genetics into their system just lost all their intellectual property, not integral. So yeah, that's pretty rough, buddy. But a few days later, a video surfaced that showed Holmes pitching investors in Ben Benzig. Holy shit, Benzinga, a cannabis capital conference in Miami in February. In it, Holmes tells a room full of would-be investors that Phylos has a huge lead as a cannabis breeder. And where do we think they got that huge lead? Could it possibly be from the 3,000 samples from 80 different countries that you have been donated, basically, essentially, to do testing on? We've been collecting data and IP for 4 years. We have really huge barriers to entry protecting us, and that we have more trust in the cannabis industry than any other science company. And they kind of threw all that trust out the window. By the way, shout out Legion's Laboratory, or Laboratory, depending on how you want to pronounce it, for showing up to a lot of streams. I've been seeing your name in the chat a lot, and I appreciate it. The real bombshell, though, was when Holmes introduced a few members of the Phylos advisory board, one of whom had worked with Syngenta for years. I apologize if I'm mispronouncing any names also. I'm terrible at reading, and also some names are hard. And another who was VP of Technology Acquisition at the merged Dow and DuPont. You're welcome, man. Holmes continued, so having these guys around is just critical for us because we're building a company that is ultimately going to be acquired by that universe. Interesting wording. To breeders and growers who had often heard Phylos employees publicly disagree or disparage Monsanto affiliation with Syngenta and Dow DuPont sounded like a deal with the devil. Also, the idea that Phylos would use its storehouse of genetic data, in some cases freely donated by small growers. So just you and me, average home growers, are just donating this guy genetics just because we want to know what we have in our bag of bag seeds. To pump up its market value and attract a major industry buyer sounded like an underhanded double cross, which is pretty much where I'm standing with it. Because that does sound like a lot of breeders, I can imagine, kind of dream is to have a database where you can send your seed that was a cross between, like, I don't know, peanut butter breath and then frozen vista or something. And then you find out that neither of the parents were peanut butter breath or frozen vista because it was all of these other things that were crossed together and made your seed that had nothing in common with any of the lineage, just because the unregulated market. I'm not sure what year this. I'm not sure what year this came out and was published, but not too long ago, we would have just been able to breed something, slap a name on it just because, and then put it out there. I have a few seeds I made with a couple of bag seeds that I plan to use them outdoors this year, and purely for self-use and gifting, I think I would be, oh Jesus, I think I would feel guilty for selling someone else's years of hard work. Yeah, that's because you have a soul, man. That's because you have, like, feelings and empathy, and a lot of companies don't have that. A lot of companies lack that run on stoner sentence. Oh, yeah, I mean, it's fine though. It wasn't that terrible. It wasn't that bad. I'm also high, so I'm kind of just throwing punctuations in where I see fit. Some cases to pump up its market value. Okay, so in some cases, freely donated by small growers to pump up its market value and attract a major industry buyer sounded like an underhanded double cross. It was too much for brothers Aaron and Nathan Howard, co owners of the Southern Oregon cannabis farm East Fork Cultivars, who had been working with Silos on a high CBD hemp breeding project since February as part of something called the Breeding Innovation Network. In late April, East Fork was still publicly defending Silos, both on Instagram and in person. The Howards knew the company was about to launch a breeding program. It wasn't a secret, and although they had believed the company's integrity and commitment to helping small family run cannabis farms like theirs by stealing from the public. Yeah, we're going to help out all these small cannabis farms and all of the home growers by secretly stealing their genetics and using them for our own projects. I have a few plants, but never felt like I owned the plant. I'm just a lucky observer and surrogate parent. Surrogate parent. Sur- yeah. Um. Oh, you've bred a few plants. I think I skipped over that part. Um. I don't know how to. I mean, technically, you're not the parent. Um. To be fair, the other plants are the parent. You just happen to be taking care of it as the adopted like taking on the adopted mother role, like Mother Nature, and she is impartial and doesn't judge, and she is able to inhibit the growth of everything in the universe. And we can't really hold ourselves up to that standard, and therefore we're going to feel certain things that are different because we're different. The Howards knew the company was about to launch a breeding program. It was not a secret, and although they had believed in the company's integrity and commitment to helping Small family-run cannabis farms like theirs, they were growing, increasingly worried that they had been misled for so long. Silos had been talking about being a different kind of agriculture company, says East Fork CEO Manson Walker. It would be one thing to be under crazy financial pressure and eventually have to sell under under duress, but actually have that as an intentional strategy. That really changed my mind. East Fork left the Breeding Innovation Network in early May. The episode is emblematic of a large trend unfolding in the still nascent legal cannabis business. The science and technology of mainstream agriculture is about to revolutionize marijuana, but old school pre legalization cannabis growers fear they'll be snuffed out in the process. It looks like that's the end of them talking about that specific situation, or at least I know enough about that situation to make my judgments. How about you guys? We're sending them to Phylos. Sequence state DNA system could reach, or it could read 2,000 sites in the genome. So that's a lot of information. So what year was this written in or published? Jesus. July 24th, 2019. So this is pretty old news, but I can't imagine it's not still relevant. Biotech company. It was called Silos Universe. I spelled Silos very wrong. Okay, so the website is very much still up. Yeah, not your typical pheno hunt seeds is one of the headers on this. So basically what I'm looking at right now, or at least I'm pretty sure I'm looking at, unless they completely threw out their database, which um, I'm basically looking at the stolen efforts of people around the world being sold for profit on silos.bio, seeds.silos.bio. We got a cheddar cheese. We got a garlic tots. We got gelato sunset. We got grape bubblegum. And to be fair, all these genetics do look good. I mean, I would grow them if they weren't stolen. So if anyone can find any like more recent information on if they at least came out and publicly said they changed their stuff, but from the looks of it, this is not a great company. Oh, we got lemon fresh, cheddar cheese, another garlic tots, a pineapple donut. We got the photosynthesis or a photosensitive short season. So basically your fast buds. All right, so that's my news on them. I kind of looked at the website. Uh, that makes me uncomfortable. That can just go on and this be public information.